Welcome to the Horror Hour.
We all go a little mad. We get you.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to the Horror Hour, place we discuss, we debate, we disagree on all things horror. I'm one of the co-hosts here, Yutaka. Hello. And today I'm really excited because I've got several guests here. So one of the fellow guest co-hosts, I've got Nick with me. Hi, Nick.
Hi, y'all know me.
And then we have two really special guests. We have Alex Vincent. How are you, sir?
Hi, very well.
And then we have Elise McCarthy. How are you?
I'm very well. Happy to be here.
And well, we're going to talk all things Chucky season 2, and just whatever the hell else we want to talk about.
Assuming I don't pass out because of who's in the room with me right now.
Well, you're sweet, Nick. I'm actually a big fan of your channel, as you know, because I've messaged.
Thank you.
I really enjoy your reactions. They're so fun.
It was funny because I was staying up all night to try to get my reactions out as soon as possible, and then when I got burnout, I was like, I can't do this. So that it was like the first week for season 2, I think it was around like episode 5 or something, that I didn't release it the very next day. And then Alex sends me a message and he's like, "Where's your reaction?"
Yeah.
Like, what have I done?
Who's hitting you up? Me. Like, what the fuck,
That's
man? Get
awesome.
on.
I do
love that
have
story.
before we get into like all the questions, I do have 2 quick funny stories to tell you. So for Christine, my mom, when I was growing up, my mom was obsessed with you to the point where she was trying to have another kid and she wanted a little girl, and she was going to name the little girl. The first name was Tegan, but she was going to name her Tegan Elise.
Really?
Yeah, so
That's
she was
awesome.
going to name my tentative sister after you. And then Alex, I think I might have told this story in one of my videos, but obviously, like, knowing that the original was filmed in Chicago for a bunch of it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna drive around one day and I'm just gonna visit all of the filming locations. So the first thing I went to was the toy store, and I'm like, oh, this is really, really close to where I live. So I'm walking there, and then I realize it's been converted into a crepe restaurant that I had been eating at for like 2 or 3 years straight. And then I was like, all right, let me go visit the Barclay apartment. The Barclay apartment, my first apartment when I moved after I graduated high school and I moved back to the city, was kitty corner. So like I would just open my window and be looking at where Aunt Maggie swan dived out of the window. So it was just crazy to me that apparently I was living in all of these locations.
Really cool.
Yeah,
That's
the
like
Brewster
right up there.
apartments. They're awesome. They're beautiful. Yeah.
And looking out your window it's the poster too, you know. So it's like having the Eiffel Tower outside your window or something. It's a really awesome thing to look at. I like that.
I was deeply ashamed that I did not realize that prior when I was actually living there.
Well, luckily,
and with your mother?
nobody went out an 8th story window while you were living there.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Was your mom
I mean,
an
they could've, I would've been
90210 fan? Was she a 90210 fan? Is that what it was?
She was.
Yeah. Happens.
I love that. So I guess my first question for both you then too, with the second season, you all got to interact with characters that you previously didn't get to in the first season. So did you guys have any favorite moments on set during season 2?
I did. I had a few. I mean, I guess notably we have to mention the around the altar exorcism scene. That all that stuff was about 3 days.
That was 5 days. Wasn't it 5 days?
5 days. I think, I don't know. I thought we were on 3 of them, but yeah, just around that table with everybody, almost everybody that we work with on the show. So that was super cool, exhausting. It was the hottest week of the entire summer and the most humid of the whole summer. And we have all the stage lights and 200 candles lit, and I'm in a dirty beard and hair and polyester jumpsuit. So it was hot and uncomfortable, but yeah, it was super fun. It was super fun just getting to act with, Devin and Lachlan and the kids, and it was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing. I didn't have a lot of heavy lifting this season. I didn't have a lot last season either, but I think I had less lifting to do this year. And it was really gratifying to be to get to know those kids and to get to work with Devin. Because I only worked one short scene with Zach and Allie last season. So to get to know them they're awesome. They're such awesome kids. And so that was really gratifying. Plus there was so much so much happened in that scene, you know, between Devin blowing up and it was great.
Multiple times.
And not getting the eyeball knife and yeah.
And in the final version, you hear a shout, "The power of Christ compels you," a handful of times. But in production, because they got that explosion from so many different angles and the elevating Chucky from so many different setups and shots, we shouted, "The power of Christ compels you," no less than 75 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was a
Your
lot.
voice is getting hoarse from yelling, "The power of Christ compels you." But The Exorcist is my favorite horror film of all time, so it was also fun.
Was it like a cast of him that they blew up over and over, or did they blow up over and over, or was it just one time with different angles?
I think it was one time, but I wasn't there for that part. You know, where we brought it to was kind of like Devin took it to "You first, Father," and then froze, and then
Yeah.
and yeah, like positioned himself to blow up, and then they blew him up on another date, or maybe later that night. I wasn't there for that though.
They did a cast of his head and neck. I have a picture of the rubber, the special effects thing that they actually did blow up. I had to post that soon. I haven't posted it yet, but I shall.
No, but watching him be vomited on, which was really a special effects girl with a plunger squirt gun with this real goopy
Pea soup.
material, pea soup. Yeah. Pea soup. And the first shot, she shot it, and a big wad of it went over his head, like clear over his head, and missed him. And then we did it a second time, and it just perfectly splattered his entire face. And it was one of those things where they got what they needed out of us, and we bursted out laughing as soon as we could.
Only two of us got the big blast of the blood, though. Fiona and I took the brunt of the blood, and they just took a bucket of blood from like 3 feet away from me and threw it in my face, like full force. Like it was a lot.
How often, like when you do that, like how often do you end up like covered in blood, like throughout the working day? Do you end up just sitting there drenched and caked in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. For me, they really the team didn't want to get blood in Andy's wig because we didn't wash it the whole year. You can't wash it the whole summer. Like it was dirty. It was intentionally dirty, and it stayed dirty.
Dedication.
So yeah, we weren't supposed to get blood in it. So when they shot the blood at us, I hid behind Kyle.
Yeah.
Andy hid behind Kyle. But it was really to protect the hair.
And I know that beard had to have itched.
Yeah, it was awful. And worse than that, it was really stringy and dirty. And the first few days wearing it, they really glued it on really good. Like they really glued it. You know, I didn't want to shave my face all the way down to totally nothing. So I got it close, and we glued it on, and we put glue. And then I realized that in lunch, I couldn't eat anything because trying to put anything in my mouth, I was then filtering out hair, like pulling out individual hairs. It was disgusting. So I eventually, after a few days, convinced them to separate the mustache and the beard. That way we could at least take the mustache off and I could have lunch.
It was gross.
Yeah, it was. It was gross. I looked like a homeless person. Security almost threw me off set.
Meanwhile, I'm over here. I feel very attacked right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I could be rather anxious at times. So I'm like pacing around smoking cigarettes, dressed like that on the set. They were like, "Who is this guy? What is he doing here?"
As the blood flow, I don't know how Allie got doused even worse than anyone else, I think, at the end in the last episode where she's
by far. That was on another level. I mean, Fiona in the church was pretty soaked, but Allie, I wish I was there to see that stuff. We had already left before they shot that, but yeah, that stuff was great. Not only did we leave before they shot it, but we didn't really read that stuff either. I skimmed it. We weren't in the episode, so I wanted to save it to watch it.
Mhm.
You know?
It was great. It was a really satisfying episode. I hadn't read it either on purpose because I am genuinely a fan of the show. So it's a luxury to get to watch episodes like any other fan would, having no idea what's coming, you know?
I
So
love that.
I know that obviously, Alex, you came back to the franchise with the post-credit scene for Curse, and then Christine, you showed up at the end of Cult. Were there ever at any point any discussions over the years prior to that to bringing you guys back to the franchise?
No.
Yeah, actually, for me, but as a different character. Don had thought that maybe I think to play Nika's mother in Curse. And he said, "Would you want to do that?"
Gag that would have been.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad it didn't happen because they ended up having to hire a Canadian actress, so it couldn't happen. I'm really glad it didn't happen though, because I don't know that Kyle would have come back if this would have mucked things up a little bit. I think, you know, made Kyle's return more confusing. So I'm glad it didn't happen. But I was desperate to get back into it. Like I would have done anything he gave me to do.
I'm glad you got the same experience that I did of the after credits return moment, you know,
and keeping a secret for a fucking year.
Keeping a secret for a year. That it was a fun and challenging position that I was put in to do that, and I was happy to watch you do it. The second time in person.
I had a harder time keeping the secret because once no one anticipated Alex, but once Alex had done it, everybody thought there'd be another one, you know. And I got asked every single day, "Is it going to be you? Is it going to be you?" And I wasn't allowed to say yes, and I wasn't allowed to say no. I'm like, Dom, what can I say? I don't want to say no because I don't want to piss anybody off. But don't say yes. I don't want to give away the surprise. So I started saying that I don't know. They shot a couple of different endings, and I don't know which ending they went with. So I don't know. That's how I got around it. But I had to he said, just be coy. Just be coy. Like, show me a version of how you answer a direct question 100 times with coyness. So
it would be difficult.
Yeah. It's also difficult when you're on social media and you see people with really strong opinions about what they think is happening and what has happened. For example, Kyle being dead. So many people were absolutely dead convinced that she was dead, and they were just, you couldn't talk them out of that. You can't either. You can't even try to say, sometimes I would say, do you think Dawn would kill a legacy character off camera so that it was left to any question whether she died or not? If she's going to die a death like the mayor died, like some glorious death, right? You can,
I would hope. Yeah.
How great was that? That was awesome.
It was great.
The mayor?
Oh my gosh. I just love Chucky jumping into it and his legs just dangling right there with the chainsaw holding him up.
It was great.
I loved that because I grew up watching her on One Tree Hill. So it was weird to see her on a somewhat wholesome show, and then all of a sudden she's just sawed in half. That's been messy to film though.
It's interesting because I know Nick had to wait till every episode aired, but I had screeners. And so when I saw it the first time, it wasn't technically finished. And it was very interesting to see all the work that goes on behind the scenes and seeing the actual puppeteers holding Chucky and moving him. And oh my gosh. So that was really funny to see. I loved it. I was like, that's incredible. And it was, yes, a ton of blood. Oh my God.
Yeah. Were they in green screen outfits or were they in the black outfits?
Both, actually. So it depended on the episode. So it was very, very fascinating because I'd never seen that before. And it just, again, it was very impressive, the practical work that goes into making Chucky.
Yeah. It's fascinating to us too. Because Don will sometimes show us stuff ahead of time while we're shooting, and all those things are still in there. And I kind of wish you could release it to the public so they could get a peek too, because it's really frustrating to hear people like, again, with their strong opinions, complaining about how bad the CGI looks, and there's no CGI.
There isn't. Yeah. Like, that's
As such a big Always Sunny fan, I happen to love a bunch of green mans controlling Chucky. Cool.
Oh, is it my turn? It's
yeah.
probably my turn.
He's just like, no.
Alex, I have a funny, weird question for you. You've probably been asked this, but I'm curious. What do you think of Child's Play 3 and Justin Whalen?
I never held it against Justin. I wasn't happy that I wasn't in it. You know, I felt I had a lot of feelings about that at 10 years old. I was disappointed that happened, obviously, as anyone would be. But you know, I thought he looked. I don't think he looks like I looked when I was 16, but he does look like I could have looked. You know, yeah. I believe that part of it. I think he was fine in it. You know, that's the film of the franchise that I've watched the least. I have only seen it a couple times. I think over this last year on one of those marathon days, I watched maybe 30 minutes of it, and that was the first time in a long time. You know, he's fine. I've never met Justin. I think we exchanged like MySpace messages once long ago.
Not MySpace.
But I've never met him. I'm kind of surprised he doesn't do conventions or anything. But yeah, you know, I thought about this recently that even though I was familiar with the movie, and of course I've seen it, and I know that we show parts of Andy Barclay that show that he lived those experiences, I didn't take anything from his performance with me. Right. When I came back to the character, I really didn't. I knew what he lived through, but I didn't at any point like watch him and try to play it off that. I played it off where it left in Child's Play 2. So, but I think that was the right call. So
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that probably makes sense because, I mean, especially after Child's Play 3 up until when you finally come back, there's such a huge gap of time that I feel like it probably wouldn't even make sense to try and like emulate the way that he was behaving because obviously, you know, yeah, more trauma now that you have to deal with. So it makes sense that you would be.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I have heard people kind of reference that Andy got a big break from all of this, and he you know, he wasn't, even though he was traumatized as a child, Chucky wasn't around him again until he was like 34 or something like that. But I take into account how many times in those years Andy may have thought he was there, you know, and thought that it wasn't over, and like he kind of, whether or not he appeared, he was very much in Andy's psyche the entire time.
I mean, you basically opened the door with a shotgun ready, so
yeah, he was ready.
You knew.
Exactly.
You know, well, I'm curious because I do love all the Easter eggs within Child's Play, or not Child's Play, but Chucky's season 2, well, season 1 as well. So I'm curious because there were so many callbacks to iconic horror films, which sounds like I might already know Christine's. I'm just curious, what was your favorite callback this past season?
Alex?
Well, I thought you were going to answer that one.
It's The Exorcist, obviously, but
yeah, The Exorcist it is, yeah, exactly. And yeah, I would say that too. I mean, I think the Halloween stuff was cool. There were several. I mean,
even Allie being covered in blood is Carrie, you know.
You know, as kind of off the rails as it may have been, and as camp to the max. The Apocalypse Now stuff I thought was great. I thought I really did. I thought it was super fun to think. You know, there was an interview with Brad at the end of season 1, and someone asked him offhandedly, like, "What do you think Chucky's going to be up to in the future?" And he said, I don't know, with all these Chuckies around, he's probably gonna have to start killing other Chuckies. And that's kind of what this version of Chucky did. He flipped out and he killed a whole bunch of other Chuckies and was keeping trophies of them around his neck and eating Andy Barkley. And so, yeah, so even though, maybe that Chucky didn't actually spend any time in war, he put himself in that mindset, and you can convince yourself of anything, I guess. So I thought it was fun. I actually thought it was very fun.
How did you guys feel about Nadine and Nadine's fate?
Oh, don't start with Nick. Don't bring this up to Nick.
I'll cry. I'll cry.
It turned really emotional.
It has been
really
a
emotional.
long time since I have felt that attached to a character, and then Don just ripped her away from me. She was so sweet and so wholesome.
She was so sweet, and it's all about Bella, the actress, because I read it on paper. It didn't pop like it did when she brought it to life. On paper, I was like, I hate this character. She's so fucking annoying, and she was not. Like, she was so lovable. You just wanted to eat her up, So and the whole everyone responded that way to her. She was instantly beloved, and that's tough to do. It's tough to. I can tell you as a professional guest star, it's tough to come into a show with an established cast, and sometimes the cast can be mean, but the audience, its fans, are resistant to new characters, and they just totally. And I think Lachlan as Glenn and Glenda, the same thing, complete, absolute, embracing of the two of those characters, which I was happy to see because they're both lovely people too,
Yeah,
I was shocked. I mean, I felt bad because again, knowing how Nick records his reactions, I was like, because I can't say anything that I've, had seen all these episodes before him. Like, he knew, but I was like, I won't tell you anything because I don't want to spoil it for him as well. But I was like, oh man, how is he going to react? Because when I saw Nadine's death, I go, that's going to piss. I mean, it was good. It was effective, but I was like, man, that's gonna hit some people. And that sure did.
I was crying in editing.
Yeah, really?
having to watch it again. I feel like because season 2, at least for me, just feels. I mean, season 1 is campy too, but season 2 is like very Seed of Chucky campy. Like, it dialed it up, but it had these certain moments which kept it grounded. And I feel like Nadine was one of those moments. And then the storyline with Lexi and the drug abuse. But when Nadine went out that window, I'm still recovering from that. I'm still recovering.
Did walking away from that like a little pained by the story? I'm sure at some level still you appreciate that, and like that's it. When something's traumatic like that, I mean that only makes the show better, really. But did her reappearance in the finale kind of soothe those wounds a little bit?
It did, because like I felt not like that I was like mad at anybody, but I was definitely like soured after she died. Like, I needed a bit to recover.
I remember that text message.
Oh yes, I was feeling some type of way, but I mean, I thought that was. I see. Here's the thing with horror franchise, and I say this a lot, like especially with like the Scream franchise, is I say if you're gonna keep bringing these characters back, or you're gonna any characters that you introduce, if you're in a slasher series, like, you have to be okay with killing these characters off at some point.
Yeah,
everybody's got to be up on the chopping block. So I appreciated that they built up this character and made everybody love her, and then ripped her away, because as much as everybody loves, the jokes and the camp that Chucky brings, it's still a show about like a serial killer murdering people. So it as much as I was heartbroken, it needed to happen, but her showing up as like a beautiful Coachella looking angel in the following episode, it did help soothe the wound a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, bad things happen to good people in real life, and especially in slasher films. And I think to really make an impact when something really, really bad happens to someone that we really love, from us personally, it's just always kind of difficult when you're so pleased with the person behind the character. A Chucky death, but a Chucky death is something to feel honor from, I think. I don't know if I'll ever experience it, but I could see.
You better not. You better not.
I could
That
see
said,
it feeling,
everybody's on the chopping block.
I could see it feeling like an honor to be killed by Chucky. It certainly was for Liv Morgan, which I'm so happy for her that she got to do that because she had so much fun with it.
I mean, she still talks about that online. She's such a huge fan, so I could only imagine what that's like.
She's really sweet and really it was making a dream come true at some level for someone who had the guts to put that out there, that I want this really badly. So I think it was great.
Don killed a 7-year-old in the first episode. Did he not?
He did.
Yeah. Like there's nothing sacred in the man.
I could not. I was like, wow, we're going there this season.
But if anything, the kid was pretty excited to go, right? He's gonna blow us all to smithereens.
That's one of the best parts of the
I know.
season. Because I'm always like,
that
throw
too.
the kids in the way.
I love that too. What'd you think what'd you think about the Caroline ending?
Caroline. Like, it's a good character, but she's just like, because kids are like the worst, not in real life, but like movies and TV shows,
they
kids
are
the absolute worst. And she is selling, because like I didn't know, I knew that there was something going on with her in the first season, but then kind of the big reveal that, oh yeah, she's been in on it the whole time. I'm very, very excited to see what they're going to do with her in the next season.
Have you guys seen The Bad Seed from like the 60s?
Is that the one with Oliver Reed?
No, it's a little girl, a little blonde girl. Is it Patty McCormick? I think. Is that right?
Sounds
it's
like
a little blonde girl with braids, and she's evil. It's genuinely scary for an old movie. Kids are, when a kid goes bad, like evil kids are about as scary. It's scarier than an evil doll. I think an evil child is really the creepiest because it's difficult to fight back. You can fight back against a doll. If you had to punch a 7-year-old girl in the face, that's not right. Like,
there's that moral dilemma, even though these kids are practically killing you.
They are killing people. Like, The Bad Seed, she kills people in 1956. And I think it's Patty McCormick.
I will have to check that one out. It
McCormick.
sounds very familiar. Like I remember the box art cover, I think. But I'll have to check that out because
it's great. It's black and white.
Whenever I think of creepy kids from horror movies, I first of all, I always used to say, like, nowadays that's very common. The kid is creepy and you question his guilt. I was kind of lucky, I think, to have Andy just be a sympathetic innocent. But nowadays they are creepy often, and yeah, I know that, like, the original idea was maybe you'd think Andy was guilty of something, but that didn't last long. But anyway, the kid who was in The Omen, the newer one, not like the old one, but I remember he would do conventions with us, and he was really creepy in the movie, and I think he's on the poster and everything, right? And he was really a nice kid, like a big smile and everything, and he was there for the convention, and he goes to do photo ops, and when he takes a picture of people, all of a sudden his face drops into like it was just great. It was great to see that transformation like over and over again all day.
I have yet to go to a horror convention because I'm just nervous of what to expect, even though I'd be like a kid in a candy store. So, but that sounds like that would be a really good moment.
Yeah, there's nothing to be nervous about. You definitely have a great time. And as far as like nerves to approach anyone at conventions, like listen, Nick too. I mean, we are kind of masters at diffusing awkwardness with people. We know that you're nervous. We have the opposite. We're receiving those nerves, so we know that you're feeling that way. And I speak for 98% of every actor who appears at a convention. We want you to be comfortable and happy and enjoy the experience and get your opportunity to express your appreciation. Because
I've had people burst into tears, and I've taken a picture, and their whole bodies are vibrating with fear. And I said you shouldn't be afraid, but I met Richard Thomas, who played John Boy Walton, and I'm old enough that the Waltons from the
Oh
70s.
my god! Because he was also in It.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
on like The Americans or something too. He works all the time. You know, he's 68. He looks 45. He's a fucking vampire. But I met him at a convention here in town, and I was such a fucking freak. My friend Bianca, you know, Bianca Hunter McNaughton, Bianca knows him. And she was like, well, tell him, you know, he did a play with Robert McNaughton. Tell him hi from B and from Robert, and you know, say hi to him for us. So I had this way to approach him, but I was so terrified. I'm like, hi. And I just shoved my phone in his face so he could read what she said. I was too afraid to even speak. And he's like, oh yeah, I know Robert. Yeah, I know them. Tell him I said hi. And I was like, I just took my phone and I ran off like a rat. And then I'd walk by his table and like look at him like surreptitiously. I was such a weirdo that by the time the thing ended, I walked by his table with my friend Elise, and he's like, okay, have a good day. And she's like, it doesn't sound like he wants you to stop at his table. But I was like a certifiable freak. He should have called security. It wouldn't have been uncalled for. Call security on me. I was such a weirdo.
I remember I think it was like the first convention that I ever went to. It was Wizard World here in Chicago, and I got to meet David Boreanaz from Buffy and Angel. And like I grew up, I'm obsessed with that show. And we're standing in line. It was me and my coworker, and she got to go in front of me. And we go into like the little area for the photo op, and she goes up and she takes the picture. And I'm just standing there looking at him in real life, trying not to pass out. And I could hear him. Like he looks at me and he says to my friend, and he's like, "Is he okay?" And she's like, oh, he's like been in love with you since he's been like 6 years old. So this is a huge deal. And like, you didn't have to tell him that. Then it comes time for me to walk up to him, and he had to like put his arm around me, and he was just like, just breathe. I'm a normal person. Just breathe. It's going to be okay. So I appreciate that. Yeah. When celebrities do that. But yeah, I get
for many of us, especially, you know, I mean, everyone's different, but especially actors who get the opportunity to meet a lot of people in their life, like famous people. Or, we know the nerves of meeting people that mean something to you. I mean, we know them really, really well. If I started talking about times that I've embarrassed myself in front of my idols, we'd be here for the rest of the day. Like, it's an endless list. I still can't stop myself from doing it. So
yeah. But like there was a time here at Monsterpalooza in California, and a girl walked up to my table and just burst into tears, and she was so cute. I came up, I went from behind the table to hug her, and her mother started crying because her mother was so happy for her that I was being nice to her. And then I started crying, and then people at other tables, like 6 people in a row, were all crying because this little girl was so moved. But you know,
and I mean, really, another one other last thought on that maybe could help that be more comfortable for people is like your nerves, feeling your nerves there is like a visible compliment. You know, I mean, that's really what it is. We understand that you're nervous because we mean something to you, and there's nothing to feel nervous about. That should make you feel better about it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, both you and I are dorks and do the same thing. So
of course, yeah.
I mean, I totally plan to go to a convention this year because also I've seen some of the panels you all do, and I'm like, that's just cool from a fan perspective, just to be able to sit there and just watch everybody interact and talk about their experience. Like I would melt.
And you get to ask questions yourself. Those panels always open up to the floor, so you get to, if you're courageous enough, you get to ask them if you really want to know. You know?
And we get nervous. We get nervous too, Christine, but we go through with it, you know, because we've learned how to be comfortable with it. And there are a lot of people who they wouldn't even consider it. You know, people write me all the time. I saw you at the convention, but I was too afraid to come up and say hello. Yeah. You know, and that's a shame. There's no need for that. Like I'm
literally why we're there.
Yeah. I'm only going to try to comfort you. So yeah.
And I always wanted to do to go to a panel, but I feel like and to be able to ask a question, but because I would be so nervous, I feel like I'd have to make sure that whatever question I asked was outdid everybody else's questions. Yeah. But I'd be so nervous, like if the question bombed, that I'd have to walk up to the microphone like Damien and Mean Girls, with the hoodie on, so that people didn't know it was me.
Nah, they're great, and there's more to them than actors too. There's the vendor rooms. If you're a collector at all, the vending rooms are always incredible. I come home with something from every show I go to.
I would go broke. That's my other fear, because I would I'm like, how? Like, I don't know how. I'd probably have to ship everything back home.
Well,
It's
that's like going to a casino. You bring what you're ready to lose. You know.
That's
Yeah.
true. Well, I do. I'm still working on just getting, I just love collectibles. I mean, I don't have an official Chucky doll like Nick does in his background, but yeah, no, I that's where I would probably spend most of my time just buying everything and then eventually mustering up the courage to speak with other folks. But I guess I do it on here, so it shouldn't be different in person.
No, it's not. I watched a pretty awesome hustle last month. I was at a show with Dig. How do you say his last name? Dig. It's
Farouk or something.
It's Faerch. Dig Fierch. He's like 21 years old.
Michael Myers, the little kid who played Michael Myers.
Yes. So he was at a show with me recently, and he's awesome. He's really sweet. He was there with his mom and his dog, his Chihuahua, and he's a rapper, and he says, "You feel me?" Like every other sentence. You feel me? He's so cute and he's so sweet, but he hustled. He went to every vendor in the room. It was a small show. It was like really like 3 actors were there. It was me and him and Ed Gale. And he went to every vendor and said, what can I trade you? I'll give you anything from my table if you give. And he went home with a giant bag of swag, hoodies and shoes.
What?
That's awesome.
Around.
That's smart.
Yeah. Smart.
Okay. I love that.
You gotta watch his rap videos. He's something. This Nordic, like, little blonde, blue-eyed,
What? I'm gonna have to look this
Nordic
up.
god. Yeah, he's cute.
He's one of the how we were talking about like little kids, how in the movies they look really, really creepy, but then you see them in real life and it's different. He is one example of that for me.
Yeah.
Because in the movie he
different.
scared the shit out of me. But then you would start I would watch like the behind the scenes stuff and he's just like happy talking. I'm like, that's a completely different person.
He's a really good kid, and like I said, he came to the show with his mother and his dog. It was like such a little like wholesome situation. I really like.
I like him in the movie Hancock, where Will Smith throws him into outer space.
Oh my! I love that.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Yutaka.
Oh no, I mean I know because it's not there's still no official announcement, which is killing everyone, fans.
Nuts.
But if a season 3 happens, where would you envision Kyle and Andy?
That's so hard to say.
Yeah.
Frankly, I hope if there's a season 3 that Kyle and Andy have a little more to do. Like me in particular. You had a lot of meaty stuff this year, Alex. I didn't really though. I just kind of didn't. And I'd like to, I'm there to act. I'd like to sink my teeth into something. I can't imagine what it would be though. Because now the kids are literally, there's not a single parent remaining.
Which, yeah, I have questions on that. Like, where do you go from there?
Don probably has 6 ideas, like 6 different, completely fleshed out, possibilities of where things could go. And, it comes down to what the studio approves and what things they can afford and that kind of stuff. I have complete confidence in him that it will be awesome if in fact it happens. But do you have any, I don't spend any time thinking about what Kyle did in the intervening years when you didn't see her. I don't spend my free time wondering what happened to Kyle for 30 years. And I don't waste, Alex does like to write and suggest things to Dawn and likes to be sort of, participate in the sausage making more than me. I just like to I just accept what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of our characters, the way our characters walked off in the end of season 2 leaves us, we're supposed to feel like this is behind us and we killed Chucky. And I think both of them seemed rather confident of that. And I think maybe they were in a bit of shock from everything that was happening too. But what I know of the character is I don't think that Andy would ever truly accept that this was over. Anyway, even if he did, was trying his best to be optimistic, I think that possibility is just going to haunt him one way or another forever. So
I think that's true for both of them. I think that
Yeah,
that never really, especially since there's multiple Chuckies. If there's one Chucky and you kill him, well, he's been killed a couple times. He still comes back.
Yeah.
Killing him doesn't kill him.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
both killed him in Child's Play 2 and he came back.
yeah, I think we were trying to show that they have a chance at life, which is a relief. But yeah, there's no way that they both don't have some fear that maybe this isn't over, and it's not like they're gonna walk out of there and then not try to follow up and figure out, make
True.
sure things like
With the kids and stuff too. Yeah, I can't imagine.
yeah.
The kids have adult allies too, so were Chucky to come back and start fucking with the kids, I can't imagine they wouldn't reach out to Kyle and Andy immediately because we know it's true.
Right.
That is very true. Yeah.
I hope that, like, whether it be a season 3 or it be another movie that brings you guys back, I just hope that there is a little bit more of interactions between you two, because that was one of my favorite things in season 2. Specifically, this lives rent free in my head for some reason, but because when Alex showed up with the long hair and the beard, and I was just like, oh my God, I want to cut the hair. And then the first time that Christine walks in, she's like, what did you do to your hair? And he's like, what did you do to yours? That was one of my favorite.
Jesus.
Like, that felt like Child's Play too, like the way that you guys talk to each other back then. I loved that.
Well, what was actually, at first I was a little unsure of how that would come off, but what was actually really, really kind of clever and funny about it is that everything for our characters leading up to that moment was like, broken down to tears about wondering if the other person survived and putting their life on the line and like consumed with that. And then finally we see each other and we just give each other a quip, like
Yeah. Right back to ball busting.
yeah.
Exactly. Like, I thought that too. I was like, wasn't he just crying about her an hour ago?
Yeah. But then she walked in with dark hair and I was like, what the fuck? What is this?
You look like fucking Jesus was added. It was not. I didn't say that on the day. That was added after that.
I mean, I would just hope. I think this is just, the messiness in my part in terms of, I just want to see Kyle and Tiffany go at it. Like, I mean, I feel like I don't know. I would just want to see some just bitch. Well, actually, I feel like he would just throw a punch. I feel like Kyle at this point would throw.
Did you see the way that she was clocking Nika?
Yeah, I was laughing so hard every time.
It's brutal. That's a lot of pressure too, like swinging at somebody. I clipped her one time. I clipped her chin one time.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
It starts off with an open slap, and by the end, it's a punch.
I think Tiffany has bigger problems than Andy and Kyle.
Very true. Very true.
But then again, I hate to be any sense of pessimistic, but we don't know if there's going to be a season 3.
Oh, of course. I don't think.
We really don't know. We really don't know.
Nobody does. They're keeping that locked.
I mean,
tight.
Chucky never dies. So there's that. We have that going for us.
Mm.
Well,
But
Yeah, he'll be back eventually in some way, shape, or
you
form.
can't. I mean, you can't keep a good guy down.
There you go.
Clever.
And also, whoever handles Chucky's social media deserves a fucking raise, because whoever, that is hilarious. Every time it's always on point. And then obviously Megan came out. And so to see those handles interact probably was some of the funniest things I've ever seen.
I
And so
look at that. I haven't seen that interaction.
I could tell you that, sometimes we're a little bit coy with things that we know. In this case, we don't, about what we just said, but sometimes we're a little bit coy about things that we know. Sometimes we straight up lie to you guys because we have to.
of course.
We have to. But this is the truth. None of us have any idea who runs that page. So.
They are just very clever. It's one of my favorite things to see. So
I saw Dawn make a sort of positive post, like welcome to it, welcome to. I thought that was a class move of Dawn for Dawn. He's a classy guy, but
Oh, what, Megan, you mean? Or is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I saw you just posted that the other day. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard mixed things.
I think it's proof that maybe we're ready to see Chucky back on the big screen. That's just
here's what I'm
I don't think we were ever
about.
not ready, honestly.
I mean,
it always would have worked. I think it always would have worked.
True.
It's just that's not our call, you know, and it's
It
not
also
your.
wasn't a big screen. It's a small
Yeah.
screen. They weren't getting
Right.
released in theaters, and I just, you know, it took 29 years to get 7 movies out, right? 29 years to get 10, 12 hours of story, and now you're getting 8 hours of story every summer. So I'm confused when people want a film, because a film will take 2 years in pre-production to even have, you know.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Ooh, I
It'll
wouldn't
take
want
forever.
that then. That's true. I do like the idea of seeing it every year.
But like working
I
on them,
love it.
what do you guys prefer? Like, is it an easier experience for you guys to work on a TV show or a movie?
No, I want to see your weekly reactions, man. I like the week.
Also,
Fair.
for practical reasons, it's a job and it goes on for longer.
Oh, I didn't think of
That's
that. That's true.
Yeah,
That is
I you know, I worked one day on Cult of Chucky. I made like
The truth is,
$100.
yeah. And the truth is that the experience of watching it with you guys, like if it all came out at once, and I know so many people love to binge and all that, I for one am very glad that it comes out the way it does. I wish they put it streaming next day, but regardless of that, I do like it coming out once a week. I really do, and I really think that's the best way to watch a show that you care about. Like, takes me back to the beginning of those hour-long dramas, you know, Oz and Sopranos and 6 Feet Under, and
Oh
like
my God, those are
waiting
so good.
waiting a week for those shows because they're heavy. There's a lot in them. You need a week to process it. Like, to just go from one to the next, I guarantee you that even though it took 2 months, you remember and absorb the season better by watching it once a week than knocking it out on a Saturday after eating an edible.
I think certainly for season 1 in particular, it allowed word of mouth to build, and I think that was very advantageous. If we just dumped it on one day, all the Chucky fans would watch it, and that would be it.
That's
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
just
And
done
I
it
mean,
on a day.
both seasons have been very critically received. I think the ratings were great. Like, I mean, it was good to see that the show. Well, I was just happy that Don was back, and then the story was great. And then to bring back legacy characters, I mean, I have so much fun. And honestly, I have to throw out the episode 4 this season though was the campiest thing, and I having to hold that in though, because how they released the screeners is they released the first 4 before, and then they would release the second 4, I think, at episode 3. But not being able to tell anybody about this like episode, I don't even know how to explain it. I was just like, what? Oh, I was like, they did that. They did that. And
It's great. Don's a genius.
I think a lot of the critics got 4 episodes and then 2 and then 2, which left that Nadine at least a little bit of a cliffhanger moment for them. But yeah, you know, I'm just making the point that I think binging it is fun, but it should not be like.
Oh, I still watched it weekly. I just couldn't talk about it because for me, I still want to see it like the finished product. Because again, what
you see is really not the best way to see it.
True, but I still appreciate it. I actually really love it even more because of all of the behind the scenes is just so fascinating to know how much work. Also, I just think how much love goes into it because it is that's got to be just a tough job as well. Like, just I think the one scene where Chucky jumped and you just see them like shuffling, trying not to make noise while lifting. It's like it's very impressive.
It's weird for us because sometimes it happened this whole season. Critics get these episodes before we do as the cast. So a lot of critics had seen it and I hadn't.
Yeah.
So more than once I was asking a question like, how did this come out? How did this look? Because I know some of you guys, you know.
I got the offer. Oh, go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I think the other benefit of it rolling out once a week is I think many people watch it more than one time then. So they'll watch it a couple times, and that's why it has such staying power, I think. I watched White Lotus season 2 in a single sitting. See that?
I did too.
I couldn't wait it.
Two sittings, I think. Yeah.
it was genius.
It was.
But when I was watching the Dahmer thing, that one was so heavy. I needed, like in the first episode, you guys have seen it?
Yeah, I did it. I did it for my Patreon, but I couldn't do that. Like normally, like for a lot of the TV shows that I'll do, like I'll try to binge them to just get the videos done. But Dahmer was one that I couldn't do. Like I couldn't watch more than 2 episodes in a row because it was so a lot.
Yeah, like in the first episode when he's got the first victim, I kept having to like pause it and go like organize drawers and stuff. I just couldn't handle how tense it was, to the point that I finally had to Google what that person's fate was. I couldn't wait for it to pan out. I had to know ahead of time whether this person lived or died. And that's my point. I couldn't have binged that. That was just too much to absorb it. It was so dark.
I did binge it, and I was in a really weird place for a couple days. I really was. It was like
I don't know. Wow.
2 days. It was, I think, 2 days over a weekend or something. I watched all of it, and I was in a very strange mood.
Yeah, I could do that. Dahmer and Euphoria are the 2 shows that I could not binge. That has to be a weekly thing
between those episodes. You do,
but I do agree with the having things come out weekly before, because like we're also used to having to binge everything these days, and I feel like for myself, WandaVision was the first thing that really it made me feel like I was a kid again, like waiting each week, and then as soon as the episode would finish, I would be on the phone with friends talking about it, and it does make you watch it more, because I'd be like, did you notice this? You'd be like, no, I didn't notice this. And then we go back and we watch it again. So it's a blast from the past, but it's a welcome blast. I do like that.
I'll watch it week to week. I'll binge. I just love to consume it. Like I mean, I did watch a lot of Chucky season 2. But either way,
Chucky's, despite the subject matter, is light. Ultimately, it's not something.
Yes, yeah. I think it's. Honestly, I think this season was just, let me put it this way, as if I were growing up, I would say this would have been an incredible show to see, because I think growing up queer, we don't get to see that. And I think just how the storyline that he did for season 1 and 2, I loved it. And it just, we need more of that. So I'm all for all of that.
The gays need representation.
We do.
Super important thing for Don, though. Don takes that very seriously. And that show is so inclusive, not just with the LGBTQIA plus community, but with a child with autism, and it's racially diverse, and it's age diverse. And there's diversity. There's Nika's injuries, and that there's a whole community like that. Of people who are disabled or differently abled, that Dawn was being really careful not to be too ableist and not have her be able to do things that she wouldn't necessarily be able to do, out of trying to depict even that over the top situation for her, to try to handle that with some grace and respect. Dawn's.
I think he's amazing.
People didn't notice in season 1 I was on Team Junior in season 1. I'm a huge Junior fan, and but whenever they were eating dinner, there was Filipino food on the table, because
I didn't know.
Teo is half Filipino, and so is Lexa Doig, and they cast a Filipina actress specifically because Teo had been cast first, and they wanted to be respectful of that. And then even like down to the details of the food on the table was Filipino food. So even the tiny details that are lost on the audience are not lost on Don.
I love that.
Makes me love him even more.
We need they need more of that in Hollywood. Like,
we really
do think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Christina, I have a question, because your outfits in Child's Play 2 are iconic. Did you have any? Because like when you showed up at the end of Cult, you're wearing an outfit that's very similar to what you wore when you were what day was it in Child's Play 2? The black outfit, and then you had like the cap on. You have to I love it. Did you have any sort of like say over your outfits later on?
Somebody sent me a mashup, edit of Kyle from Child's Play 2 yesterday at 9:45 p.m. and I sent it to Dawn last night and said, somebody made this, and I watch it and I see so much of how you guys let me be me in your Kyle. I said I'm choked up with sentimentality about it, because almost everything I wore was mine. The hat, I wore that hat I still have the hat. I've worn the hat I wore it in Child's Play 2. I wore it in Cult. I wore it in season 1, and I wore it in season 2. The hat, and it's my hat. And Don will forever make Kyle have that hat because he just loves that I have the hat still. And I've worn it on 90210, and I wore it on 21 Jump Street. Like that hat is a good luck hat. I got a lot of jobs with that hat. But the only thing that really, the main thing that wasn't mine is the stuff from the factory sequence, because they had to have multiples of it. I could wear all my own vintage clothing and everything in the earlier parts of the movie because it wasn't going to get fucked up. But they needed to have 10 versions of the factory thing.
That makes sense.
We're there for 2 months shooting that sequence, and all kinds of things happen. So that's why that outfit is so generic and not at all what you see Kyle in for the whole other part of the movie. In a weird trivia thing, the girl that was the costumer on Child's Play 2 co-founded Juicy Couture, that company.
What?
And sold it for like $300 million or some shit. So yeah, she's done well. But yeah, almost everything I wore was mine. The pants and the boots that I wore in Chucky are mine. Almost everything I wore, most of what I wear in the show is mine.
That's wild.
Because for a couple of reasons. One, it fits better. It's also just not off the rack from that season. When they're shopping for clothes, there's a limited amount of stuff they can pick from. And I've got my lifetime's worth of stuff to choose from.
Well, I would imagine that's probably just like easier to like act and feel natural when you're in your own clothes. Because I think about that all the time when I'm watching movies. And there's like, say, actors in it that I follow on Instagram or something. So I see how they dress and they act in real life. And then you see them in a movie and they're dressed like this suburban Caucasian housewife. And I'm like, that's not you. How are you pulling this off?
Well, it's called acting.
Yeah, it's probably helpful. It's quite helpful in a lot of cases too. It depends on the character and how much you relate to them, probably at some level.
But the clothing I wore in 90210 was largely mine too, especially in the first episode. Almost all of it was mine.
Dang.
Yeah.
So, well, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll finish with this, because one, I'm just very appreciative that we were able to sit down and catch up with you both. But what's next for you two?
Maybe FBI is next for Alex.
Well, maybe. I'm joining the FBI is what she means.
What was it? Lovable loser or whatever you said?
Well, we'll see. No, I haven't auditioned for that show. But yeah, no, as far as acting, I don't know. I own this recording studio in Clearwater, and I do other things mostly. I've only been on a handful of auditions over the last couple decades. Andy is really a passion project, if you will. No, it's I'm committed to it because of my love for the Chucky family and for all of you guys. But I don't act all that often, but you never know. So maybe. But what's definitely next for us is a whole bunch of personal appearances this year. I just put up my list of dates, and there's going to be a bunch of them again this year. So I'll still be on the road making those appearances, trying to keep this recording studio going, and maybe trying to kill a killer doll again. We'll see.
So I have a film coming out, but I don't know when. It's a little independent one, so I don't know that probably will not get any kind of a theatrical release. It'll be sort of a festival film. I posted it on my Instagram yesterday. It's called Here We Are. Before COVID, it was a short film. It was written as a short called Gaysism, about racism in the gay community. And while he was editing it, COVID happened. So he took the time to build it into a feature. And then in between season 1 and season 2 of Chucky, I shot that. And I'm kind of excited to see it because Alex remembers they wrote my character in like after the fact, and they shot everybody else while I was doing Chucky. So all of my stuff had to be shot in 2 days, and it was like 17 pages of dialogue. It was unbelievable amount of dialogue. I was having a fucking heart attack. I was all like a black cloud over my head, all straight. Like, when I get back, I have to do this fucking movie. I've got 17 pages of dialogue, and like I'd have a giant paragraph to say, and then the person I'm speaking to would go, huh. And then I have another giant paragraph. I had all the dialogue. It was really intimidating. And I feel like I pulled it off, though. I feel like I might be proud of myself. I'm sure I'm going to look hideous. I always look hideous. But I looked super hideous in Child's Play and Chucky season 2. But this one, I think I can even get over looking hideous. I think I might have done some acting I'm proud of, which I don't get to do a lot of that.
And what's this one called? I think I saw you.
Here We Are. It was called Gay Season, but they changed it to Here We Are.
Yeah, because I've got to keep an eye out for that, because the other, like, that's the other thing. I love the film festival circuit because that's where you really also get to see a lot of these independent films that don't get those releases. And so you find some really incredible films. So
I programmed festivals for almost 20 years. So I would like watch 1,000 independent films a year, like not even exaggerating.
Oh my God.
Completely immersed in it year round for a very long time. Have you guys seen my short film?
I don't know.
I have not seen it.
So I've got to look for.
You have got to see it. If you go to bathingbook.com, there's a tab that says the film, and you can watch. It's a 10-minute short film. And then I wrote a comedy novel inspired by that film, but I think you'll enjoy the movie.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Bathing in the Single Girl, it's called.
I will check both those out. Oh yeah, I do remember hearing it. Oh, I'm going to keep my eye out on that, because I would like to see that. That sounds really good.
And Christine and I may have a couple more interviews for our Chucky Talks podcast this year. We're not sure, but whether we do or we don't, there's 10 or 15 good episodes from last year that you can check out. ChuckyTalks.com.
Yeah, much respect to you guys, because Alex and I, we don't live in the same city, so it's difficult that we have to do things, different time zones and da-da-da. And the podcast was such a lot of work. It was a lot more work than it appears, because it's a pretty straightforward situation. It doesn't require a lot of heavy editing, just sort of cleaning up, dead spots and maybe taking out a line or two that somebody wishes they hadn't said on camera. But it was a lot of fucking work. And
these guys know they work hard. I mean, keeping a podcast together is a difficult thing. And Nick, your turnaround on some of your reaction videos is ridiculous, because your editing is really good and you get it out really fast. And I know that you must just get in a zone. I don't know whether you're a coffee drinker or something, but you just must get in a zone. And
any sort of caffeine when I'm editing a video to keep me awake. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy ton of work that most people don't realize. Whether it's a movie, a podcast, reaction videos, like for instance, like the reaction video that I have to release today, like I spent over 20 hours just editing that video. It's a lot of work, but I appreciate you, noticing that.
We appreciate you guys. We appreciate, I was actually thinking at one point last year, and then we kind of got busy and distracted, but of doing an episode, like maybe a super fan episode of Chucky Talks on our podcast and having some of you guys on there. So we'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna flip the switch.
Nick would be the best, because he has such a great memory and recalls so much details from everything. But also because, as you said, his reactions.
Maybe Nick and Chris and Bridget and Cody, and you guys know who all these people are. I think you'd be really good together. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, and it could be and then there's less pressure on any individual, because there's a what's the word I'm looking for? A plethora of other people to fill up space.
And there'll be a lot of Chucky dolls, I'm sure.
Perfect.
Well, again, I just want to say thank you. This has been really fun. And Nick, I'll let you close this out. And also, thank you for joining too, Nick.
You want me to close it out? Okay.
Yeah, you're better than I am with this.
It looked beautiful in season 2. I have yet to see a not beautiful moment. Alex, I hope you get to work with Michael C. Hall someday, because I know you want that. But thank you both for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today. This, for myself specifically, I've peaked. This is my peak right here. This is amazing to me. Like I grew
Nick,
up with you guys. This
You
is
haven't
amazing.
even begun to peak because
Yeah.
when you peak, we'll all feel it.
Oh, wow.
Thank
That's
you.
it's from Always Sunny. That's from Always Sunny.
It is.
That's next up on the watch list. I still have to watch
man,
all of that, but there's a lot. There's a lot of that.
15 seasons. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, God.
So
But
Well-
yeah, thanks for watching this episode of the Horror Hour, and we hope you come back to watch more of them. And we hope you, both of you, Alex and Christine, you have a wonderful day. And thank you again for doing this.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Right. See ya.
You have been listening to the Horror Hour. See you next time.